Telecom continue to rule the world. Uzi goes godlike.
This is what peak League of Legends looks like.
Welcome back to MSI 2021, taking place in lovely Reykjavik, Iceland. It is so much warmer than when I was there a few years ago, and I am so freaking jealous I'm not on the ground with Cloud9 as they take to the stage. They will be battling against Pentanet.gg, and such a bright, shining highlight of a player.
You can't miss him.
You can't miss him at all. Some say you can see him from the moon. We're about to continue the Rumble stage. It is nearing the end of our first round robin. And of course, the clock is ticking. The hands of fate move ever closer to the 11th hour for those two teams, both winless in the Rumble stage. I'm Quickshot, joined by Caedrel, and dialed in from lovely LA, it is Raz. Raz, let's start with some big news here. RNG, they're undefeated. The top four teams, of course, looking like RNG, Damwon, Mad, and Talon. All four of the top-ranked teams will advance to the knockout stage next week. Raz, RNG, they're just unstoppable, undefeated. Will anyone take them down?
Yeah, they're a team fight powerhouse at the moment, RNG. And I think for me, taking a look at them, I'm a little concerned about just like overall laning phase in mid lane and top lane. Just overall, just from what I've seen in the LPL playoffs. And so those are my concerns. We haven't seen it just yet, but we have great players specifically in Showmaker. And so that's something that I'd love to see, later on in the tournament. It's a best of one, so they might be able to get a draft. I think some of their drafts have been bad, so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yes, in particular, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think another weakness that I saw in the RNG versus Damwon game in particular is that Damwon really had a good, strong early game against RNG, but it was team fighting that got them back into it, like Raz said. But this team's looking strong. I think if anyone's going to take them down, it's probably our tied for second teams in Damwon and Mad Lions.
I mean, Damwon and Mad Lions. I mean, yesterday, the draft from RNG discussed a lot. Many people felt that Mad Lions draft was good, but ultimately they couldn't close it out. I'm going to turn to you, Caedrel. Let's talk a little bit about those two teams tied in second. They look defeatable, but I'm surprised Damwon look as sort of weak as they do at times. I'm also surprised that Mad look as good as they do. I don't know how to read them.
Yeah, Mad Lions have dropped 2 games whole tournament long. It's Istanbul Wildcats in the first stage of the Rumble, and now in the second stage it was against RNG, right? So they have a very interesting way to draft, very different from the Asian teams where they draft more towards team fights, scaling, things like the Wukong Oriana, things like the Rumble, of course, and the Victor. So it's lots of team fight, whereas the Asian teams, in particular RNG and Damwon, draft for these solo lane, winning lane, just pushing prowess, early game strength. So very different stark contracts and styles. I think Mad Lions against Damwon is what everyone is wondering how they'll do, because Damwon look vulnerable, losing out to Cloud9 obviously, and then Mad Lions also look slightly vulnerable here and there as well. But I think once these two teams face off, we'll see who our clear second favorite team is in this tournament.
Yeah, 100%. I think from Damwon's perspective, even though only losing one game versus RNG, the results aren't too bad for them. It's actually looking quite great. But yeah, in terms of quality of play, I'm looking towards players like Khan throughout the entire tournament. Like in the very beginning, it was quite shaky. I think now he's pretty sturdy on the Scion pick. But then towards bottom lane, that when they went up against Cloud9, actually they got dominated in the 2v2 and were focused by Blabbers. So I think there are very core points in the game where they're getting picked off that I think they can clean up very easily going into the rest of the tournament.
Raz, I've got a challenge for you, and maybe this is a little bit bold of me, but let's just assume my next two statements are true. Damwon are underperforming to expectation. Mad Lions are looking impressively good. Which one do you think is more true and more shocking at this stage of the tournament?
I think the Mad Lions point are looking really good. I know you guys are the European, representative. You guys have tracked the entire split from the team. My expectation coming in was primarily I thought that the laning phase for bot lane would be a lot more questionable. I think Kaiser is an insane support, post early game. But Carzzy this tournament has been an insane
He's popped
standout.
off.
I think exactly. He's been so damn good throughout. And so, like, I think the individuals have definitely stood up early game and in their 2v2s that I didn't get to actually see when they were a good example going up against Rogue in the finals.
Yeah, Mad Lions look fantastic, but a team that's not looking fantastic is Cloud9, right? Actually winless right now, 0-4. There was 2 games that arguably they should have won that they didn't, and it just feels like they keep getting, I don't want to use this word because I don't think it's a good word to use in League of Legends, but they're getting unlucky.
Wow. Rez, what's your take here? Winless? Like, how nervous are you that Cloud9 don't advance out of the Rumble stage?
Very nervous. I mean, it's not in their control anymore in the sense of like if PSG are just growing and growing and getting better and better, like Cloud9 need to be able to convert the wins that we're seeing. Like example are the 2 times in which they went up against Damwon throughout the tournament wide. And of course, like the RNG game that they had. These are games that, yeah, they're looking good at the very early portions of the game, but then they're getting picked off and keep moments before the actual team fight. The team fight themselves have been quite poor from them. So like there are a lot of points within the game that are just bad that I didn't get to see those moments in the regular season. So I think it's looking tough.
Yeah, it's looking tough, and the fact that they lost to PSG is also a big deal, right? PSG and Cloud9 are like the tied for 4th kind of teams, expected 4th teams, and you've got the clear top 3, right? So PSG obviously doing fantastic so far. They're yet to take a game from one of the top 3 teams, but taking down Pentanet, taking down Cloud9 really helps them secure this 4th place spot, which will be the last spot getting into the semis.
Technically, and I like to be the technically correct guy, Talon are the 4th best team in Rumble right now.
I would say so far PSG looks the best. Yes, they've lost all 3 games they played against Mad Lions, and they got handily destroyed by Mad Lions, I must say. But the only real good things for Cloud9 so far is taking down Damwon. Barring that, if they even lose today against Pentanet, that'll be an even bigger disaster. And PSG, this game in particular, I think people were kind of, even myself, unsure about the draft. You know, they have such a weak draft when it comes to just pure assassin, engage, dive comp against Kog'Maw, Lulu and stuff like this. So I thought C9 would take that game handily, outscale, winning lanes, but they didn't. PSG, mechanical outplay, and that's what got them through that game.
Yeah, and it was through Maple. Like Maple was the player that I was looking towards, like coming into the tournament. Like a lot of the analysts were really excited to see him play and have that resurgence because I saw him and I was casting his games in the LPL, and like I knew what he could do coming in from the PCS, and he's able to do that here today, or at least like you know, when he went up against Cloud9. So like individually, yes, have those pop-off moments, and then like team fight, yes, I think they're a strong team fighting team. We got to see what Hanabi was able to do on his Lee Sin. Cloud9, if they want to be able to match that strength in team fighting, of course, have to create some upsets. They just need to show some form that we've seen in domestic play. So it's going to be really tough in terms of just looking at the schedule from this point forward, and also just like tough seeing the trajectory in how I think PSG have been getting better throughout the tournament, and I haven't been seeing that necessarily from Cloud9.
No, and of course, if you assume that PSG and Cloud9 are supposed to be battling for 4th and that Pentanet will go winless, that is where that battle for that 4th seed into the bracket stage will come from. We've set the stage quite a lot. Let's have one last interview from yesterday where Laure spoke to World Final MVP Canyon before we look forward and find out what else is happening today.
Kenyon, thank you for joining me. 3-1 for Damwon Kia so far in the Rumble stage. And yesterday, Khan was telling me about the issues you've been having, but I want to have your opinion. How is this MSI different compared to the experience you had in the LCK?
일단은 메타가 확실히 바뀌었기 때문에 좀 좋은 티어라고 해야 돼. 좋은 티어의 챔피언을 찾는데 좀 걸렸고 이제 거의 다 찾아서 저희 경기력만 보완하면은 될 것 같습니다.
So first off, I think because of the meta change, well, there were some difference in terms of the tier list, and it took us a while in order to get our own tier list completed. But I think we're almost there. So I think from now on, we should just focus on our own performance.
Almost there, indeed. And yeah, we're halfway through the tournament, so it's a good thing that you guys did. About the meta, though, what do you think of the other team understanding of the meta? How do they play the game?
그냥 경기에 나오는 대로 이제 거의 AP 정글이 대세로 나오고 있고, 그리고 바텀 쪽도 이제 나오는 챔피언들이라고 해요. 그냥 나오는 챔피언 나오고 뭐 코고모 막 사용하는 팀들도 있고, 약간 팀마다 다 다른 것 같아서 그런 것도 좀 어려운 점인 것 같습니다.
So as we could see from other games, mostly AP junglers are on top of the tier list, and also in addition to that, on the bottom lane, we're seeing almost every champions, in every game, the same champion in every game. But some teams do play Kog'Maw, for example. So it's really different because of that. Some teams kind of try something new.
Yeah, and that's what you get from playing against other regions that you're not used to seeing usually. Which brings me to my next point. Your next match is going to be against Mad Lions. And I know that Alioya, Mad Lions jungler, looks up to you and he watched a lot of your games. What's your take on this jungler and are you looking forward to facing him?
일단 제가 LEC를 막 다 챙겨보지는 않는데 플레이오프는 거의 다 챙겨봤거든요. 근데 엄청 깔끔하고 약간 영리하게 잘 하시는 것 같아서 또 이번 매드와의 경기가 엄청 기대되기도 하고 또 떨리기도 하고 그냥 재밌을 것 같습니다.
So I didn't watch all of the LEC games, but I think I almost every playoffs games. So based on that, I think Alioya, his playstyle is really clean and clever. So I'm excited for our matchup, but at the same time, a little bit nervous. But yeah, I think we're going to have a banger game.
Oh, he's going to be very excited to hear that. Last question for you, Canyon. There's a big discussion between RNG and Damwon Kia right now and how they're the big favorites for the tournament. What do you think makes you different from them?
저희만의 특별함이라면 저희 팀에는 쇼메이커 선수가 있습니다.
We have Showmaker.
You have Showmaker. Okay, great answer. Well, 감사합니다 for the interview, Canyon. And Jason, thank you so much for the translation, as always.
I absolutely love that interview. And you can hear Kenyon smile. You can actually hear him grinning through the mask.
We have Showmaker.
But the thing that I love is that when he was asked about Alioya, his exact words was, he plays pretty clean, he plays pretty smart. Like, we actually branded Alioya as a cerebral jungler at the beginning of the year. That has to be huge praise for a rookie jungler now impressing the defending world champion.
Yeah, we had Alioya a couple times on Euphoria, and both times he said, there's a huge gap between us and Canyon right now. EU junglers versus Korean and Chinese junglers, there's a big gap. So he's got something to prove, I think, in this game.
I mean, he really does, because today, Damwon Kia and Mad Lions, they face off in a battle for technical control of second place as we close out the first round robin. So after game number 3, all of our teams in the Rumble stage will have faced each other once, and we will start the rematches as they go head to head. So we'll take a look at who's, going to have a shot in the bracket stage, and one of the teams that I think is going to struggle, that needs to win today against Pentinet's Cloud9. They took to the Rift yesterday, they struggled against RNG, and I said to Caedrel, how? Why? What did RNG do to beat Cloud9 so easily? And he's going to help me and hopefully you understand the importance of seizing the moment.
Yeah, this might be a bit complicated, but I'll try my best to help him, keep up. So we'll start with this clip of RNG versus Cloud9. So it's just for a little bit of context before I play, actually. Xiaohu's taken 2 towers top. It's around 14 minutes in the game, and we're going to teach you how pressure translates from one winning lane to another.
Okay.
So Xiaohu pushes out top, and he bases. Where do you think he's going to go, Trevor?
Where is the wave set up?
So the wave's actually pushed in all the way to tier 3, and that means Fudge has to catch it. So Xiaohu gets a lot of free time. That means he can run towards mid. Now, because Cloud9 are probably saying in the comms, well, I have to push out top, Fudge is saying Xiaohu can be missing. He has TP up, and Fudge doesn't.
So they have to react to whatever RNG is going to do, right?
Exactly, but Fudge doesn't have TP, so he can't actually join a fight. So that means they have to give up the bot push. And now if you just watch what happens on the map, I'll just bring up the minimap a little bit more here. You can see what happens on the minimap. They get the bot push, they get the mid push. Xiaohu's behind mid to secure the mid push, and bot lane already has the push because jungle's there, and Fudge is pushing out top with no TP. So now you've got almost like a split map going on here. The problem for Cloud9 is the split map's not going in their favor because the Malphite's sitting top tower, whereas Gala's already got bot tower.
So Gala's got the tower bottom, Fudge can't do a lot top. I also noticed that Vulcan was obviously not with Sven at that time. So now Gala starts to back in. If I look at this mini-map, now there's more pressure for RNG mid. Fudge isn't even hitting the top tower.
Yeah, Fudge was hitting it, but doesn't have the damage to take it down, right? So that's the biggest problem he has. And now RNG translated their jungle support pressure from the bot side of the map straight into the mid lane, and that means that they took the mid tower as well. So you can see on the minimap, that one's taken down, and Xiaohu can go back towards base, whereas Gala can catch out top. So RNG have net themselves a mid tier 1 and a bot tier 1 and a dragon that we saw off screen. And now when Gala pushes this in, he's going to do the Herald as well.
I mean, so they get absolutely everything. If I'm looking at the mini-map, Cloud9 trying to make a play down bottom. Okay, wait, re-rack it, reset this. What should Cloud9 have done Because it looks like they did nothing and RNG got everything.
Yeah, RNG got everything. And just before we go back to see what Cloud9 should have done, we'll just look at the minimap one more second and just see that this bot tier 1's not going to fall. They're going to defend that. They're going to get the Herald. And then what will happen with this Herald is this mid tier 2 will fall. So what RNG would have got? 3 towers, a dragon, and a Herald. So let's go back. Let's see what Cloud9 should have done. I think Cloud9 had one small window to enter this play, and it was on this next bot wave, where you can see, look at the minimap again, push out in bot, right? Sven and Vulcan have the push, and now they have an option to base. And you can see Vulcan actually starts recalling on the bot side of the map, but Sven stays. Now, the biggest problem Cloud9 have here is because their jungle support base and go top side, it's almost like a split map. And if you just keep your eyes on Sven here, you'll see he goes back off the wave, doesn't actually clear it out, and now he's just asking himself, like, wait, why am I here? Maybe I should just base and go top, try to make a play top side, but at this point, the cross map's not in time, your AD carry's not top side, you can't start the Herald. It's basically a disaster for Cloud9, Trevor. They lose 3 towers, they get nothing.
I mean, it's really difficult because one of the things that you know, I've seen this clip now several times, and you highlighted, you discussed to me that one of the small windows of opportunity was that decision to ban.
Yep.
You know, not having teleport, not having Sven with Vulcan, etc. Is it like it's really difficult to understand and comprehend that, right? But the problem is you make that bad call and then it cascades.
It's a very complicated situation where you can't really put the blame on Sven, right? His team's basing going topside. It should be a team decision that he should go with them, and they just split the map topside because Zhao who's missing and the pressure bot fades. And I think they got nothing from this. Sven lost bot waves. He had to go mid. And RNG had a 2k gold lead at 14 minutes. Wow. By about 17 minutes when this mid tier 2 fell, they had a 5k gold lead. So disaster for Cloud9. Really good advantage from RNG using these pushing lanes, using this transitioning top winning into other lanes just to get them snowballing.
And the thing is, it's so difficult to recognize. Like, we've got God view. We can see absolutely everything at all times. So it's a difficult situation.
They had one small wave of opportunity to try to cross map.
Unbelievable. All right, so let's see whether or not RNG and Cloud9 can figure this out. We're going to head over to the analyst desk because at the start of the Rumble stage, we asked all of our viewers who they thought the most stacked role at MSI 2021 was. And bot lane was a flame horizon behind all of the other lanes. Over the last few days, we've seen some great performances from supports in particular. So we want to take a moment to highlight a few of them. I actually started this segment planning last night with Caedrel and with Raz and said, okay, what's the most stacked lane? What's the most impressive thing? And without even a moment's hesitation, both Caedrel and Raz are just like, it's support. There's no doubt about it. It's support. Support is the most stacked. Caedrel, why?
Well, if you look at throughout the historic international events, you had like the AD carry era in 2017 with like Reckless and Uzi. Then you had the solo laner era with Rookie and Deshai. And even last year, you had Canyon, World's MVP, the jungle era, right? Now I think it's the support era. And the reason I think that this tournament's so stacked on support role is you've got players like Ming in the actual lineup of RNG who won MSI in 2018. And he's just pulling Nautilus bans left, right, and center. He roams the whole map. He wins his lane. Him and Gala look absolutely fantastic, diving 2v2s in bot. And he just translates his pressure from bot to other lanes so fantastic.
I read this awful like dad joke with Ender saying he's not even a bot laner or a support because Ming spends most of his time outside of that lane.
Yeah, look at this, just pure mechanical class on these engages, right? On the Gragas just catching out Sven there you saw, and I think when there's a meta of engaged supports and you have such a player with so much confidence, this helps you a lot.
Yeah, and it's just been like through, tournament wide for him. I felt like Ming coming into this tournament was the best support in the tournament, was, honestly vying for best support in the world. Like being able to cover top lane dives and great timers, working with Wei has been like a primary success for him. And like finding hooks like these, Ming is a playmaker, and that's what you love him for.
I mean, Raz, when you think about Ming as well as a player and the experience he has, there's no doubt he can have a huge influence. Raz, who's your support to watch and why?
So, man, Kaiser for me is definitely the support that I'd go towards because I do think the support pool is stacked. Like I was excited about Vulcan coming into this one. I was also excited, of the overall support pool of the tournament. But for me, Kaiser has always been an incredible jungle, working with rookie talent like Shadow last year, but also this year coming in with Alyoya, being able to set up Vision really consistently. The team fights that he has have been fantastic. His Leona games, double Leona games so far in the Rumble stage, and in both games, like the team fights have been started and ended by him. And so I think when we look towards Mad Lions and talk about how strong their team fighting has been, I look towards how he's able to set up playmakers like Karzi and Humanoid to succeed.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And we've mentioned supports. We haven't even talked about Beryl, right? He's a world champion. I think he's been having a bit of a shaky tournament, but then you look across the board. C9, even Vulcan, I think has been playing absolutely fantastic. You remember their win against Damwon, I believe it was, where the Alistar clutch engage got Ghost with no flash. Even though they were down 5k gold, they were losing the game. They just got ace, they lost Baron. And then they actually managed to win a dragon fight off the back of Vulcan's engage. So that's already 4 supports, which are absolutely fantastic. I think this is probably the most stacked support international event we've ever had.
It was very exciting. I'm very interested to see how it'll continue to play out. And throughout MSI, the experts will be answering your questions about the games. But they can only answer those questions if you actually send them in to us. So hit us up on Twitter at MasterCard Nexus, and we'll be able to highlight your responses on the show. I actually do have a quick fan question. It's from at Quickshot on Twitter, and it says,
Okay.
Raz, why are you such an EU Mad Lions fanboy? Every time I hear you talking, you're just like, Mad Lions are the best, Mad Lions are amazing.
He's speaking the truth.
I mean, you know, that's all I'm hearing.
Well, no, because I was like, that was kind of counter to my expectations of the tournament. I think a lot of fans out there think I'm an EU hater and a Mad Lions hater because they're coming into the tournament. I was really high on the experience advantage that Cloud9 had. Bringing in perks is definitely like a huge feat. And then you have like PSG that you hear the scrim rumors and everything, and the fact that they were, I felt like really strong team fighters. And then Mad comes into this tournament and like. For me, I talk about Carzia a lot. I was already pretty hyped about Kaiser, and I felt like he got a bad rep in the last tournament when Mad Lions dipped. Now I'm a fanboy, all right? All right, so like now it's coming to fruition.
The thing is, at international events, if NA ever drop out, they can always join the EU hype train. That's all I'm saying.
And vice versa. Vice versa. If you drop out, we join the hype train. Well, everyone sends in those MasterCard fan questions. I would like to talk about what trends we can see on the Rift. Let's start with Caedrel. I think starting from the bottom lane, starting from the support pool, talk to me about the meta and maybe how the champions have evolved over the course of the tournament.
Yeah, so the bot lane champion pool right now is a bit of a mix and match, and I think that you've seen the most banned out supports right now are Thresh and Senna. Senna obviously really powerful in the mid to late game paired with the Tam Kench, doesn't have to farm, soul stack up. And then Thresh is actually an interesting ban because that unlocks things like Aphelios and Jinx, right? Immobile hyper carries that need to reposition, especially in the meta when there's Lee Sin, Rumble, these kind of champions like Olaf as well. So these are really important champions. Thresh, always banned out. And then when those champs are banned out, it opens up more engaged support. And I think what you've been seeing majority of the time on red side, teams 1-2 Kais Nautilus pairs really well together, really good synergy, early bot push, and really good engage, right? So it feels like the support role now is revolving around a lot around engage, right? When you have these bruisers in top side, these carry junglers, which AP junglers, right? You really need engage. So it all comes from the support pool, and that opens up things like the Alistar Nautilus. But the problem is once those things are banned out, because the meta right now is all about solo lanes and jungle, right? I want to, I don't know, Tristana Lee Sin with the Morgana, right? I've got my top side. Now the supports get banned out. Where can you get the engage if they're banned away, right? So it makes the meta kind of lean towards enchanter support sometimes. We saw Kog'Maw Lulu, we saw Karma as well, paired with things like Jinx. And now it is really good to have these because you get early bot push and you can scale really well into the late game. Problem is contesting dragons is hard. You lack engage, especially if you only have an Udyr who's your primary source of engage. And I think the one team you can attribute having those enchanted supports is Cloud9.
It's so difficult as well because it creates kind of like a rock, paper, scissors diagram in draft, right? Where you have different style, like such drastically different styles of play that is just influenced entirely by the draft.
Yeah, you have to pick up engage in certain roles. You have to pick up supportive champs in certain roles, hyper carries, wherever it may be. You have to kind of leverage the draft and balance it out, right? That's where it gets complicated when support gets banned out towards the 4-5.
Now, of course, we focus a lot on the bottom. Caedrel already set some expectations around how the champions that are locked in the bottom lane or your initiation or whether you're going, AP damage. Raz, what impact does that then have on the jungle role?
You know what's hilarious? Like if you're finding difficulty in getting a support, be the enchanter support, just put that straight in towards the jungle. I was like the Morgana pick. I know a lot of people expected Rumble being like the go-to pick with how much of an impact that it had in the first stage of the tournament. But the Morgana comes out and it just literally fits all of those questions and answers that within the draft. And I think that's been the major winner. If you look towards the draft that I really loved in the Mad Lions, I think there are a few great examples of it, like putting the Morgana shield on towards a Kai'Sa and have that dive straight into the back line or the Akali. But when Mad Lions showed that draft, and I really enjoyed having the Morgana paired with the Jinx and all of that, like that's a composition that I really enjoyed and that we can focus on. But yes, currently the meta has been dictated by those three
I think
junglers.
we do actually have the graphic. You're allowed to say, hey, can I have the RNG Mad team composition graphic?
All right.
Let's pull the one up so you can actually explain a little bit more clearly what it was that you wanted to highlight. in terms
Perfect.
of that Morgana. So we'll
Yeah, looking at it right now, like it's the Tom Kench that you see in the back wall over there with the Morgana and Jinx, like being able to support it.
You're blind, Trev.
And so that's the thing, because I talked about the fact that you can put it right on towards the Kai'Sa, but then when Mad Lions went up against RNG already showcased that they had the Thresh. I mean, later on, they went up to have the Twisted Fate. I thought that was quite questionable. But it goes on towards like how good Morgana is in being able to fit into whatever your composition desires in like having a hyper carry.
Rez, now that I can actually see the draft behind me, apologies. There was a lot of chatter, a lot of discussion that this draft yesterday from RNG was bad, was not something that they liked, right? However, they still managed to pull it off. Is that just because the RNG players are exceptionally better than everyone else they're facing? Or could you point to some mistakes that Mad Lions did during the course of the game?
There was one key mistake that happened in the 2v2 mid when Elioya was clearing a control ward, and at the same time Humanoid was getting his wave in, so like they were just on this different wavelengths, and that was a perfect time for Humanoid to get ganked. And what happens there goes straight back to what Caedrel actually showed in terms of you make one mistake, and then RNG will get everything on the map. That turns into a bot lane shove, and they have like now Prio in the bot lane that turns into a great 2v2. That turns into a Rift Herald topside. I think RNG, when they find those windows and get a mistake off the enemy team, they turn it into a landslide.
Yeah, and just one more point on this draft, right? If you just look at it holistically, this is a very common thing between West and the East, right? You've got the Western draft where it's like more team fight, more scaling, more just 2v2s in general, whereas the Eastern draft, in terms of RNG and Damwon, they like to play these solo lane pushing lanes with maybe a global or just pick comps or things like the Gnar, TF, Olaf, which stand out in the early game, right? So making sure they push out sides and collapse on the objective first, rather than the Western teams, which like to just get the objective first and set up, right? So two different playstyles, and that's why you can see RNG backdooring C9. Even when they lose team fights, they find their way through side lanes, and that's what I think is the difference between the West and East right now in the drafts.
Just playing the map significantly better, as well as having the ability to outperform at the individual level, right? It's been such an interesting tournament when we look at the draft, we look at the different styles, as well as how the teams have played. And just before we get to Cloud9 versus Pentanet, I did want to take a moment to hear what Vulcan had to say after yesterday's games.
Heartbreaking ways. We know that we can fight these teams, we can win against those teams, so there's still hope. We assume PGG is going to be last, and then after that, or in first place is like RNG, Damwon, Mad, and then the fourth place is what we're fighting PSG for, right? So it really sucks to lose to them because that's like the biggest match of the week. But we have a chance to get them back in the second round robin. The team morale is fun. Obviously, it sucks to lose 4 games in a row, especially the kind of games that we lost. But there's hope.
Welcome back. A difficult situation, of course. Cloud9 now facing off against another 0-4 team in Pentanet. Both teams are edging closer and closer towards being eliminated. But honestly, for Cloud9, there should probably be 2 wins in that W column. It's been an interesting ride. There are some mistakes on their side. I think you said this earlier. Unlucky was the professional analysis.
Yeah, unlucky is one way to say it, right? They've had games where they're just kind of flipping the game level 3 versus Mad Lions, top and bot, the game's over, right? We've seen the Scuttle Crab memes. The only real Scuttle Crab meme I can attribute to the C9 loss was the Mad Lions game in general, right? The RNG game was just a backdoor. The Damwon game was close, but yeah, they never really stood a chance in general. And I think that C9, this is the game that they have to win if they want to stand a chance against PSG.
Now, just before we dive into it, the reason for that, of course, is assuming Pentanet will not be able to cause any upsets, and assuming Cloud9 can get revenge against PSG Talon, and assuming PSG Talon do not pick up any wins against the teams currently ranked 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, it could set us up for a tiebreaker between 4th and 5th. All of those things combined will now ask the question, why are C9 losing? Let's start, as we always do, with the draft. One of the things we talked a little bit about was obviously the execution. I think this is something that has been discussed extensively and heavily, but based off the yesterday's draft with the double ADs, the double enchanters, as well as some of the other trends we're seeing, I'm going to go to Raz first. Let's talk a little bit about this draft and what you want to see from Cloud9 to improve.
So I actually did enjoy this draft. I think conceptually, a lot of the times, like putting the resources in the bot lane is a positive. Like Vulcan and Sven right now are succeeding. They're doing incredibly well. This game, I think, was just like pure misplay in how they wanted to set up around team fights. But I think the consistent concern that fans have for Cloud9 is just the simplicity of the draft. Being able to pick easy go buttons in team fights, or giving a playmaking option towards Perkz, that was the deciding thing from him in the finals going up against Team Liquid in the LCS, was that putting the power in Perkz so he can succeed and not have them play on these mages. So like those are the questions for me, but I think they should keep on the course and focus on what's really causing them misplays within the game.
Yeah, sorry. Just talking about the draft in general, right? I think Raz is completely right. Give Perkz more agency. When this player is on things like the Lucian, the Yone, even the Tristana, it feels like he takes over the game in his own hands. But when he plays these scaling picks, there's not really much he can do to help the team in general. And I think that as much as I'd want to attribute draft to these kind of things, it's a classic pro player thing where it's like, we go into game, we lose the game, oh, it was the draft. Honestly, in Cloud9's case, it's not the draft. I think the drafts are absolutely fine. The execution is just missed. And you can just see it from PSG's draft when we were talking about the East versus the Western drafts. Look at the amount of outplay potential those champs have. Akali, Lee Sin, Leona, Kai'Sa, they can dive on you, they can outplay you, they can mismatch you. Whereas Cloud9's comp, there isn't really much outplay. It's just straight front to back scaling. So I think give Cloud9 more agency when it comes to the point and click goes, like Raz said, just easy engage, give them more outplay potential, give them more pushing lanes, and get Perkz on something that can actually carry the game in the early stages.
I mean, I think yesterday's draft, the double AD, double Enchanter, right? When you see the advantage they were able to accrue, when you see the way they were able to punish the bottom lane repeatedly and build up that lead, ultimately, it doesn't matter if you pick a draft or a composition that has a time window on winning. Executing is what matters. I do want to move us on to Pentanet very quickly, because when we do look at that team, and they are looking down 0-4, possibility of going 0-5, Praedith has been the player that has really stepped out or stood out in my eyes throughout the course. Him and Pabu, though, I think they're going to be key for victory here.
Yeah, Praedith in the wins there. You can see the stats behind us. He's the key driving factor behind this team in their wins. Although the wins were only against UOL in round 1, it basically, the way that the team worked in general was you had Praedith on things like the Samira and the Xayah. He had like 9-2 on the Xayah, I believe. He was basically the consistent driving force behind this team, despite his team picking these odd off-meta champions like Zed, like Nidalee, like Karthus. He was a consistent factor, right? And Pabu was his bridge. He picks the late game hyper carry, he carries you in the team fights, you just have to get him there. And that's what basically Pentanet did. Pabu got him there, he was able to carry, and that's how they picked up their wins against UOL, on top of the crazy picks they had sometimes.
Yeah, and also I would say BioPanther top lane has been his, like, throughout the tournament, and mostly in the early portions of it, is a strong team fighter. On his set, on his Urgot, if they can get to the mid-game stages, even footing, I actually think that Pentanet has a lot to offer. The only issue is that a lot of the times the games ends very early for them, off of like Pabu getting put behind in the jungle. So I think coming into this game, what I would love to see from Pentanet, put into the draft resources so that Pabu isn't put behind and isn't like put in a 3-quadrant situation. So like I think if you make it so Pabu is able to farm consistently or skirmish around Scuttle Crabs when that happens, then put yourself in a position where you got here from your team fighting, I think that would be great from Pentanet.
All right, now just as we're about to get ready for draft, Caedrel, who will win this game and why? I
think Cloud9's going to win, right? I think if they lose this game, then, well, I think Pentanet definitely shouldn't win this game. Cloud9 have to win this game. I'm going to say Cloud9 for sure on this prediction. I think Cloud9 just need to bring a more consistent comp. They should be able to beat Pentanet handily, and then just look forwards into the day later on when they face a stronger opponent, and then start to pull things out. But if Pentanet bring out something crazy, which I think they might have, then there's a chance Cloud9 could get upset.
Raz. Wait. Hold on. Can I get the prompter to go back? I want to quickly read this. So, Raz, before I get your prediction, in order to win out, wait, I need to go up a little bit more for me.
The battle of the NA residents. I'm ready.
Cloud9 must overcome PSG's win count and outwin Pentanet.gg. And if C9 wins both PGG games, they make it out of the Rumble stage in 23% of remaining scenarios.
Dude,
right? All of that combined, who will win this game?
Trev,
and the amount of pressure
you can't use percentages. I had a 96% chance to make playoffs in summer last year.
Of scenarios.
Of scenarios.
Not chance. Chance and scenarios are different. Chance and scenarios are different. I'll teach you math when we're in the ad break. Raz, prediction, go.
Let the man breathe. I mean, it's absolutely Cloud9. For me, there's no world in which they lose. And maybe it's just the classic caster curse. They have to win. And I think what I'm looking out for is how they do it. They need to have strong fundamentals. They need to be on point in team fights. I think they need to do it in an emphatic fashion, much like Dam1 has done as well.
Oh, I've got to cut you off, dude. I'm so sorry. I waffled too much. It's now or never for North America. Let's get into the action. Oh, math is so hard. Why am I doing math live?
Close doesn't matter, right? Yep. It doesn't matter how close you were to getting the win.
절대 만족하고 있지 않고 계속 열심히 경기력 올리려고 노력하고 있습니다.
其实我们现在没输过的话，就可能是对手很多也会有失误嘛。然后我们自己的话，不太在乎这个全胜吧。
Right now, as a Mad Lions, we have chance to be MSI champions. We are not maybe the greatest players as individually, but as a team, I think we are really one of the top teams.
Ace for the Mad Lions, and for the third time here at MSI 2021, they will defeat PSG Talent.
就感觉跟他们打， 虽然我说了3次，但我感觉越来越接近了，感觉下一次我们就会赢了。
Maple just taken down Perks easy.
I think the team morale is fine. Obviously, sucks to lose 4 games in a row, especially the kind of games that we lost. But there's hope.
Cloud9's unwinning spree will continue as the world champions take them down.
We assume PGG is going to be last, and then in first place is like RNG, Dam1, Mad, and then the 4th place is what we're fighting PSG for, right? So it really sucks to lose to them because that's like the biggest match of the week.
We've already achieved what we came here to achieve for the most part, so everything here on is pretty much a bonus.
For the moment, Pentanet able to survive. Xiao who dives in, Predator's going to kill Ming as well. Gala and Wei, the only 2 left alive.
Any experience we get, anything we learn, any adaptations we learn to make, it's all towards like the ultimate goal, like worlds.
很多问题，然后一直赢的话，也不一定是个好事。但是我觉得能赢的话，目前来说看起来还是蛮不错的。对上 RNG 的话，因为他们0败吧，所以对上他们肯定是有压力的。但是
The king of Europe is coming for you, Dam1 Gaming.
잘하는 것 같고 그래서 저만 잘한다면은 다 충분히 이길 수 있는 상대라고 생각합니다.
So you don't need to have the best of records. You only need to be top 4 out of 6, right?
This Cloud9 game, up and coming, is, I mean, it's pretty hilarious if we win this game, honestly. Like, if Mini NA beats NA, I think that's a bloody good storyline, so I really hope we can do some damage.